Hi everyone. So I want to return back to my story around the third wave of medicine. Remember, the first wave was the medicine of experience, indigenous people. The second wave was the medicine of experiment, science-based medicine. The third wave, I said, was driven by quantum scientists. So I want to just come back to it a little bit because there's a serious danger in this third wave as well. Remember, we're just in the beginning of the third wave. It hasn't actually really formalized itself completely. I'm just pointing to the beginning, the building blocks, the pillars of it. But the danger is that the second wave, the wave of experiment, still manages to capture the third wave. How can it do that? Well, it can do that with AI. I mean, the fact is that what's happening in many places now is that AI has been introduced and replacing human beings, replacing them in such a way that to find somebody at your bank to speak to now is difficult. So what can happen is that AI takes over hospitals and even consulting rooms where you speak into a computer now, and that takes your history and makes a diagnosis and even suggests protocols. So that could happen right through. I mean, where even surgeons are not doing the operation; it's done by AI nowadays. A surgeon is just looking on. So that is the danger of how the second wave can even capture the third wave. I'm talking about an uncaptured medicine. And what would that really look like if medicine was uncaptured? In other words, if the role of experience and experiment start to come together in a very creative way. What would that look like? Well, that's the medicine of participation, where both the practitioner, the healer, and the client participate together in an equal way. So that would look very different, participation, because even the first wave wasn't really a participation. It was the shaman, the one who really knew what to do and did his own symbolic, using whatever it was, herbs and bones and anything like that, ceremony, but he was in control. The client was passive. In the second wave, the client is still passive, even more passive. And in fact, the client now has become not just a human being, but even a machine. So in the second wave, the machine model of human beings is primary. And so it's just a machine. You can cut it up and replace parts. You can use powerful chemicals, which also block, I call them surgical blocks. So the second wave is also dominated by the practitioner, who is usually very arrogant even, and doesn't like the client to ask too many questions. The third wave is different. That's a wave of participation. And participating in a way which allows something much larger to emerge into that space. Why is that? Well, because the machine model has reduced the human being to a machine, which means that only that which can be measured, that which can be controlled, as it were, is real. So the human being becomes a machine. Obviously, human beings are not machines. They are matter, energy, information, and body, emotions, mind, spirit. So we are energy, information as well. And that's the reason why quantum science has become interested in that, because they're looking past the matter model, the machine model. As I keep pointing out, Max Planck, one of the Nobel Prize winners of physics, said, I've been examining matter all my working life. I can tell you there's no such thing as only energy information. And behind energy information is intelligence we don't understand. So that's quantum science. It's pointing to a much deeper layer than the layer that the conventional medicine is stuck on, because they're only interested in what can be measured. And anatomy and biochemistry is what's relatively easily measured. They don't look at energy information. Quantum science keeps pointing it out, that matter is energy information. So once we get into the energy informational model, then everything begins to shift around human beings, around the nature of ill health, disease. Because if behind matter is energy information, then how do we think about disease? Is it just anatomy or biochemistry? Well, as I keep pointing out, biochemistry moves much too slow, centimeters a second. Light moves at 300,000 kilometers a second. So the controls have to be much deeper. But the conventional model can't get into that space because they use biochemists. And biochemists are not physicists and engineers. And so we need to understand that the third wave brings back the whole human being. Matter, energy, information, body, emotions, mind. But, and this is the big one, what quantum science has done. As I said, Max Planck said behind energy information is some intelligence that we don't understand. And it's that intelligence that quantum science keep pointing to that again makes a big difference in the third wave, because that intelligence is what they also describe as consciousness. So behind matter, energy, information is this intelligence, which is also called quantum potential, which some people call consciousness and some people call God. So the point is that this is the bigger picture, much bigger picture of a human being than the conventional model, which is the human being as a machine. So we need to be, that's the danger of the quantum model, that it can be captured and reduced to AI. And as my ChatGPT often reminds me, is that it's nothing more than informational. It's got a big memory and a lot of information, but it can't do what human beings can do, which is feel. It can't go into feeling. So you're not, I mean, it looks like somebody that is somebody there behind AI, but there's no one there. And yet we know that in a human being we're dealing with something much more profound, much more deeper, much more mysterious, and something that has consciousness behind it. So the third wave recognizes this consciousness, recognizes intelligence. And as I've pointed out before, it's like driving a motor car. You first have to learn the ropes, as it were. You have to learn the technique. But once you know the technique, you put the technique aside a little bit. And now you're driving with some intelligence inside you that can use that information that you've learned to drive the car. But you don't want to bring that thinking apparatus back into the driving, because you won't drive well. There's another spontaneous, innate intelligence that is there that can drive the motor car, and drives the motor car with the information on the side. So we don't want AI to dominate the relationship between a doctor and a patient. The AI can be there in the side to use when necessary, but the real interaction between these two people, the doctor, or practitioner, and the client, there is where the magic happens, and that's where the partnership happens. That's where the two people, matter, energy, information, consciousness, are interacting in a much deeper way than we think. I mean, as I pointed out, even the electromagnetic recording of the heart can be picked up 1 meter outside the body. So there's a deep interconnection happening between the practitioner and the client. That is the third wave, and that's where the third wave needs to move, and has to take a lot of care that it's not captured entirely by AI. AI is useful. It's a servant. It's not the master. The master is the intelligence in me and the intelligence in you. And when they dance together, that's magic. That's alchemy. And then whatever comes up is okay. Surgery might come up. Drugs and nutrients may come up. It doesn't really matter if it's being used in a way that is part of that understanding of this partnership that's there. Have a good day.